Doctor, I've been doing it the same way for 50 years, but lately, something feels wrong, a 72-year-old patient once said to me. What was subtly harming his body if he wasn't ill or using any new medications? Masturbation. Not the deed, but the manner in which he was performing it. Furthermore, he was unaware that it was impairing his heart, prostate, and even his senses. With more than 60 years of experience, it tightens the pelvic floor, presses against the prostate, and gently harms the nerves, which are already becoming more delicate as we age. The pattern is so obvious to me. Men in their late 60s and early 70s may have edema, dribbling after urinating, trouble emptying their bladder completely, or groin pain, but they have never linked these symptoms to their personal behavior. As a urologist who has examined the scans, heard the anecdotes, and monitored the results, I can assure you, however, that this seemingly innocuous posture can cause a gradual domino effect that eventually exacerbates the discomfort of intimacy and urine. The answer is straightforward. It just comes down to awareness. Change your surroundings if this sounds familiar. Get up. Take a seat. Allow air to circulate and breathe in your pelvic area. Your prostate is silently pleading with you to quit pinching it, I assure you. Wait until you hear the next error if you found this one unexpected. Most elderly men do it without even recognizing it. And every time they attempt to have fun, it's subtly reprogramming their body to feel less. Error 3. Rushing the sensation. Rushing through the sensation of self-pleasure is one of the most prevalent tendencies I observe in older men, particularly those who have endured decades of monotony, stress, or have learned to keep things quiet and fast. Instead of experiencing it completely, they view it as a chore to finish or a passing moment. Here's the issue, though. Your body no longer responds well to physical or emotional stress after the age of 60. Patients have told me, "Doctor, I just want to finish it. There's no time for me to linger." Rushing, on the other hand, causes strain in your nervous system. Your pulse rate increases too rapidly. Blood vessels narrow. The full potential of oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, and other hormones that promote calm is not realized. Your body doesn't receive the full benefit of your climax. You feel more empty rather than gratified. You feel exhausted rather than energized. Even worse, your body learns from this hurried pattern that pleasure is fleeting, superficial, and unconnected. You start to become less sensitive over time. Arousal cannot be maintained. You find it difficult to keep a partner interested. You continue to believe it's simply old age. However, it isn't. It's the urgent habit, which is subtly depriving you of something much more potent than a brief moment of respite. Reduce the speed, make every minute deliberate. If you allow your body to feel, it can still experience deep sensation. Take a breath, hold on. The finish line is no longer there, just being there. Speaking about presence, the majority of guys are unaware that they are undervaluing one of the most vital muscle groups in the male anatomy, a secret mechanism that regulates everything, including bladder control and erection power. That will happen next. Your sexual health may completely change once you comprehend it. Error 4. Ignoring the pelvic floor. The majority of guys have never heard of the pelvic floor. Nevertheless, especially after the age of 60, the pelvic floor is one of the most important areas of your body. It serves as the base for your prostate, bladder, and other sexual organs. Urinary control, orgasms, and erections are all powered by this secret engine. And everything starts to suffer, subtly but significantly, when this set of muscles is weak or ignored. A proud father and former athlete in his late 60s complained to me about a decline in his sexual performance. "I eat properly, I work out, doc," he said. However, something simply no longer works. He was unaware that his pelvic floor, which had been active and robust when he was younger, had become inactive. He had become disengaged and struggling as a result of years of sitting, ignoring his lower belly, and retaining stress there. You are putting undue strain on your prostate and weakening the muscles that should be supporting it when you bear down and push, or worse, when you masturbate without using your pelvic floor. This eventually results in dribbling, leaking, a lower quality erection, and diminished climax experience. The effects don't come all at once. Year after year, it slowly seeps in. Here's the good news, though. Those muscles can be activated again. Mohit Khera, I'm a urologist who helps men over 60 retain their strength, circulation, and confidence without embarrassment, medication, or guessing. Even if you've been taught it's healthy, some personal behaviors can subtly become dangerous after the age of 60 without any warning signs. I'll go over 7 common masturbation errors made by older men in this video, along with tips on how to avoid them affecting your performance, energy, or long-term health. Strength and awareness are developed by gently constricting the region you would utilize to stop a pee stream during arousal. Over time, this easy routine might help you regain confidence as well as physical function. Furthermore, excessive or insufficient activity in this area of your life might potentially upset the equilibrium of your entire system. Frequency, or how frequently you touch yourself, might have a far greater impact than you may have been aware of. Next, let's examine why. Error 5. Too high or too low of a frequency. Many older men are reluctant to discuss this topic. Some people fear they're doing it too frequently. Others silently question whether they have been without for too long. And the majority of men over 60 wind up on a lonely, unclear route midway between embarrassment, perplexity, and out-of-date advice. This is what I've observed throughout my profession. Both extremes are dangerous. A man's body frequently can't keep up with excessive masturbation, whether it's due to habit, boredom, or unresolved emotions. Prostate tissue becomes inflamed, energy levels decline, and he may eventually find that his interest in genuine closeness wanes or that recovery takes longer. Routine takes precedence over desire, which depletes vitality and dulls the nervous system. Some males, on the other hand, completely cease. Medication, health issues, religious guilt, or simply the sense that they are too old now could be the cause. However, many are unaware that the body requires regular circulation, just like any other system. Even in the absence of climax, sexual stimulation supports nerve endings, keeps blood flowing to the genitalia, and keeps the erectile muscle strong. Long-term absence of that causes atrophy, waning desire, and an abrupt closure of the emotional and physical doors to connection. There is no ideal quantity, but for the majority of men over 60, 1 to 2 times a week, done intentionally with care and with presence, is frequently the sweet spot. It enables the body to sustain circulation, reestablish hormonal balance, and sustain the system without experiencing fatigue. This isn't about rules, remember? Listening is key. As you age, your body talks silently. Learning to hear it is the key. However, even with its proper frequency, all the gains might be undone by a single common error. The majority of guys engage in this behavior out of instinct without realizing that it is harming their nerves and altering the basic definition of manhood. Next, I'll show you what that is. Mistake 6, applying too much force or pressure. This is one of the most detrimental and often missed errors I observe in older men. The number of patients who have sat across from me, baffled and frustrated, saying things like, "Doctor, I don't feel as much as I used to," or "it's taking more effort than ever," is too numerous to count. Behind such remarks, individuals frequently have a secret tendency of touching themselves too forcefully without giving it any attention. I understand. The natural reaction when sensitivity declines with aging is to tighten one's grip, apply more pressure, or attempt to intensely recreate the lost sensation. Here's what your body is trying to tell you, though. Feeling is not restored by force. It ruins it. Your penis's nerves are sensitive, particularly if you're in your 60s, 70s, or later. Real physical harm can result from years of vigorous friction, severe squeezing, or relying on surfaces or things that exert excessive force. The tissue has tiny tears in it. Elasticity is lost. Even subsurface scarring, which can result in pain during arousal, curvature, and decreased blood flow. Not only is it uncomfortable, it has the power to alter your anatomy forever. Trauma like this is a quiet thief. It takes time to manifest. It develops gradually, and the harm is frequently already far advanced when you observe the change. There's more to this, though. A man loses touch with the delight of pleasure when he feels he must struggle for it. It turns into a battle rather than a therapeutic experience. The body's capacity to receive and relax can be altered just by that thought pattern. Thus, adopt a kinder stance. Your body is deserving. Your future self will be appreciative. Speaking of separation, there is one last error that transcends technique in the body. It's an emotional and spiritual phenomenon that all too often affects elderly males. The sixth mistake is the one that practically all men make. Let's begin. To ensure you don't miss any future advice specifically for men over 60, if you haven't already subscribed, now is a good time to click the button and turn on the bell. Type 1 in the comments if this video resonates with you. Type 0 if it doesn't. I can provide better content for you thanks to your input. Furthermore, it may be the most harmful of all. Let's discuss it. Error 7, without feeling, relating, or intending to masturbate. Of all the mistakes, this one is the most invisible, and frequently the most devastating. It doesn't matter what you do, how frequently you do it, or even where you do it. It's all about how it makes you feel. Many elderly men eventually start to see self-gratification as monotonous, meaningless, hollow, and mechanical. It turns into a sedentary habit carried out mindlessly, emotionally, and without purpose, or it becomes a silent means of escaping loneliness. Many guys in their 60s, 70s, and older have told me the same thing. It feels different now than it did before. Alternatively, I'm not even sure why I bother anymore. In actuality, their hearts aren't in it, even though their bodies might still work. No warmth, no presence, no connection. And that emotional detachment has negative effects on one's physical and mental health. The nervous system is trained to expect pleasure without reason when masturbation is divorced from emotion. Your body and brain do not release the same healing chemicals, but you may still climax. You don't receive the dopamine that increases motivation or the oxytocin that elevates mood. Rather, you're left feeling flat in a shell of the experience that once existed. More profoundly, it perpetuates the notion that pleasure is something you experience by yourself, without joy, and in quiet. However, things don't have to be that way. Touch, even when done alone, may be affirming, meditative, and sacred. It can be an opportunity to reestablish a connection with your aging body, not out of guilt, but out of appreciation. You still own your body. It still has a feeling. It is still important. After discussing each of the 7 errors, let's put everything together. Because when you know how to rebuild, that's when the true change starts. How to regain vitality, vigor, and self-assurance at any age. Now let's discuss the next step. Your body is still telling you to ignore the greater picture. If you've read this far, I want to talk to you as someone who genuinely respects your experience, not simply as a doctor. I've seen a lot of decent men suffer in quiet over the years. They attribute it to aging. They point the finger at time. Some even place the blame on themselves. In actuality, though, no one ever taught us how to take care of our bodies as we age, particularly in regards to connection, pleasure, and sexuality. The 7 most frequent blunders elderly guys make when masturbating have just been mentioned, and none of them result from ignorance or indolence. They result from decades of practicing what used to work out of habit and an ignorance of how the body, like life, changes. Circulation that is slower, a prostate that is more sensitive, a neurological system that can no longer withstand abuse or disregard, a heart that yearns for meaning as well as experience. I want to be clear. Touching yourself is not a sign of shame. Using your own body to find solace, relaxation, or even happiness is not a sign of weakness. When we lose focus, that's when things get deadly. While we're in a hurry, when we cut off communication, when we presume that something that has worked in the past will always work. You see, there's a commonality among all those mistakes. Utilizing porn too frequently, masturbating in inappropriate positions, hurrying the process, ignoring the pelvic floor, doing it too much or too little, exerting too much pressure, or performing the motions emotionlessly, disconnecting. And the true danger is that it's the gradual deterioration of your relationship with your own body, pleasure, and vitality, not age or desire. Here's the good news, though. There is yet time. It isn't. Your body continues to communicate with you. Even though things are quieter now, respond more slowly, and seem different, it's still alive. It also wants your respect, care, and attention. As it ages, it requires different care, much like a vintage car. However, that does not diminish its worth. Actually, it makes it more sacred in a lot of ways. What are you going to do now? Begin modestly. Be kinder. Pay closer attention. Learn your body's terrain again. Make use of purpose rather than habit. Instead of feeling ashamed, be curious. Let's honor sensation instead than performance. Don't be scared to halt, breathe, or feel. Most importantly, never give up on the idea that you and other people can still connect. Have witnessed men in their 60s, 70s, and even early 80s improve their energy, intimacy, and health as they began to view aging as a transition rather than the end. That transformation is something you deserve. You are worthy of feeling again. Let's now examine the first error, which has increased in frequency in recent years, but subtly alters how your body and brain react to pleasure. First mistake, using porn as the main stimulus. I've received the same silent worry from countless guys over the years, most of whom are in their late 60s or early 70s. I can't seem to feel much anymore, doctor, they say. I'm not sure why, but it feels like my body is becoming numb. I usually ask them a straightforward question. How frequently do you use porn? In the most intimate areas of your life, you deserve to live with knowledge, strength, and respect. Because ultimately, this is about more than just avoiding errors. It's about taking back the silent strength you still possess. It's still there, I assure you. Apply what you've learned with a gentle touch. And keep in mind that you still have your greatest years ahead of you. They are in the way you decide to live this new chapter. Smartly, proudly, and with care. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this with another man who should hear it if it was helpful to you. And their eyes drop nearly every time. They didn't know it might be hurting them, not because they're humiliated. You see, as you get older, the dopamine system in your brain, which is in charge of motivation and pleasure, becomes less nimble and acute. The continuous exposure to fast-paced, high-intensity adult content overloads your brain with more activities than it was ever intended to process. And your brain adjusts in the worst way conceivable when you do it every day, every week. It starts to become numb. That means the genuine, organic spark of intimacy, the very thing you once loved, begins to wane. It feels different to touch. Your body reacts less rapidly. And even if you're still physically fit, you lose the capacity to silently connect deeply and experience something genuine. Even worse, a lot of older men place the blame on themselves. As people get older, they believe they've simply lost it. Actually, though, it's not age. Overstimulation is the cause. Additionally, this type of numbness can last for years or even decades if you don't reset your brain's response mechanism. Therefore, do not disregard a decline in sensitivity, connection, or satisfaction that you have observed. This initial error could be the secret cause of everything. Even more startling is the fact that the next mistake is not related to what you watch, but rather to where you view it and how that setting subtly damages your body in ways that most men are unaware of. Error 2. Sitting on the toilet and masturbating. At first glance, this one would seem innocuous, even practical. I've talked to a lot of older men over the years who discreetly acknowledge that the restroom has turned into their personal area, for release as well as for hygienic reasons. Routines feel secure there, the door locks, and no one disturbs. However, most people are unaware of the much greater danger that sitting while masturbating, especially on the toilet, can cause. One of the most crucial systems to safeguard as men age is their circulatory system, prostate health, optimal sexual performance, and even your ability to recover after climax are all dependent on blood flow. However, prolonged sitting, particularly in the hunched-over, compressed position that many men adopt when using the restroom, limits blood flow to the pelvic area.